Welcome, everybody, to a very special Maester Monthly installment, An Evening at the Quill and Tankard. I am Bookshelfstud, also known as Michael.
I am Glass Table Girl, also known as Eliana.
I'm JoeMagician, otherwise known as Matt.
And my name is Aaron, and I'm AdmiralKird.
As of about 7 hours ago, while we record this, the first teaser, I guess, for Game of Thrones Season 7 has dropped. The Long Walk teaser.
Woo.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Woo. Featuring Jon and Dany and Cersei walking and sitting, which is just, like, mind-blowingly incredible. Oh my god.
You forgot the last character. The Night Queen.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How could you forget?
Of course.
You're just like the people in Westeros, forgetting the war that actually f***ing matters. Oh, no curse.
Oh my god.
I don't know. Is this one going on iTunes?
There goes that.
Just edit it. Just put a bugger over it.
He was kind of like a teaser in the teaser trailer, though. He wasn't a full featured character, because he didn't sit on anything.
No, I kept waiting for them to zoom out, and he's like on an ice throne, but we didn't get that.
That would have been really cool.
Well, he's next to the wall. Why would he need a throne?
The Night King is such a tease.
Someone had a good comment in the thread suggesting that he should have been sitting in Bloodraven's throne.
That would have been cool. The Weirwood Throne.
That would have been way more mysterious, like, I've taken over this place that I see everything from and know all.
Right, exactly.
Maybe they tore that set down, though, after the end of last season.
Probably.
Because they got rid of the Eerie set, like, right after that season had concluded.
I guess we're not going back to the Eerie then, huh?
No.
Damn. I wanted more Sweet Robin. So much more.
They could have done something, though, where they did, like, a camera capture and 3D modeled the entire set. So if they had scenes later on, they could just superimpose the characters into that.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I feel like it could happen. So yeah, well, I mean, what was everyone's thoughts? We sort of jumped right into the Night's King there, but, like, are you hyped? Or were you sort of lackluster? I don't know. What'd you think?
It's a very cheap kind of... Not a lot going on in this one. Like, you're not seeing the dragons, you're not seeing armies, you're not seeing ships. It's just these three actors walking. It's simple, but I think it's effective in sort of showing kind of how they're all assuming their reigns of power now.
So when you say cheap, you mean a good thing. Like, it didn't cost a lot.
Yeah, I mean it in a good way.
Yeah.
They didn't throw Michael Bay at us.
Well,
Right.
Thank God for that.
This series will be about character stuff. Okay.
And cut.
This series will be about...
Truly the Quill and Tankard.
The Quill and Tankard. We're just having a good time.
Where everyone's phone goes off. It was better than, say, the old teaser trailers that they had with the site. Remember those for season
The
5
what?
Oh my
or season
gosh.
6? Those were really low production.
The site, the ones where, like, you got, like, a direct message on Twitter that was, here's your glimpse of season, I think it was season 5.
Yeah, because they showed the House of Black and White Doors were one of the things that they showed. It was
Yeah.
very brief.
It was those, like, 10-second clips of, like, a set or a raven or a flag or something.
This was a proper teaser
I
trailer.
thought this was a really good teaser. Yeah.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, even though sometimes they fall flat, cough, block of ice, I guess I applaud the willingness of HBO to invest in, like, trying to do these more experimental ways to push the new seasons. Even if it falls flat, it's cool, it's commendable that they want to try to be out there.
I've always liked these early trailers and stuff when they have lyrical, it's not pop music, but, you know, like modern
1989 pop music by James.
1989.
Yeah.
That song's older than a Game of Thrones. Think
Wow.
about that for a second.
It's older than me.
Is it older than Wild Cards?
No, it's not older than the masterpiece that is Wild Cards.
Wild Cards is forever. It never started, never ends.
You know, I actually found, like, one of the middling Wild Cards books in the library, like one of the ones with the terrible covers that has never been re-released.
Those covers are beautiful and belonged in frames.
Sure. Yeah, man. Totally. We also saw some new stuff out of... Well, we've seen Winterfell and King's Landing with Cersei and Jon in charge, but we saw Dany on what appears to be Dragonstone. That is big news.
Hell yeah.
And she's changing a lot of things about herself. She's wearing Targaryen colors now. She's sitting on a throne instead of sitting on her little bench in Meereen. It seems like she's really going full Dany the Conqueror mode.
I mean, I think it looks awesome, that new set. I hope we see a lot there.
Did we never see that throne on Dragonstone during the Stannis scenes?
No, he stayed in the map room.
We never did because it's a brand new set in Spain.
Is it a brand new set in Spain, or is it just like outdoor stuff that they're doing in Spain?
No, I'm pretty sure there was like a cave or something with that kind of rock formation. That's not very spoilers production yet,
good.
Don't worry.
No spoilers production.
I'm not spoiling anything for you. I just think I recognized that rock formation from a photo or something.
I was watching it back, and I was wondering if that wasn't a redress of the main set that they have in the throne room for King's Landing. Because as far as older shows are concerned, when they need to do, like, say in Star Trek, they could never, like, really recreate the same bridge over and over of, like, alien spaceships. So what they do is they'd take, like, a stock set, and they'd redress it by, like, adding new panels and stuff. And if that's, like, a really huge set, judging by a couple of the shots when we saw Dany walking, I'm wondering if they didn't just take that set, remove some of the pillars, and put different panelings over.
Yeah.
They would have had to change the floor.
That would make sense if they did that, and if like they had that same aesthetic in world between the Iron Throne and like King's Landing and Dragonstone, because it's the same owners, really, same architects. So,
do you think they could have taken apart the Meereen throne room and redressed it as that?
It's possible, but the Meereen set was very... Well, they would have torn it down unless we go back and we see Dario ruling Meereen in a couple clips. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
That'd be great.
I hope so. I really need some closure on that storyline.
I like how the back of Dany's chair is very angled, like it's the Dragonstone visage when you're looking at it from on the set, and like you can see it behind the background on Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, because Dragonstone's actually behind him up in the top. You guys didn't know that? I'm looking at your faces and you're like all lost. You can see Dragonstone on the set of Last Week Tonight.
Are you serious? Like on the soundstage, like around the other side or something?
No, it's like right behind him, above his head.
No.
You're blowing my mind. Anyway, so the music in this trailer, like I was saying, like it's one of these times when they've decided to include something lyrical. So what did you guys think about the music? Do you think it fit?
The lyrics themselves it's sort of a person asking for forgiveness, sympathy, and empathy and they're saying like, let's be friends, come sit down next to me. We both experienced horrible things in our lives. We can relate over this. And then how does that relate to the three characters walking to thrones and sitting down, other than the obvious, sit down part? I had an interesting idea about this.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw out my spicy meatball right now.
Okay.
It's so spicy.
Right.
So, there's nobody else in these scenes. So it's Dany, Jon, and Cersei all walking to thrones and they're sitting down, but there's no one else in the scenes. There should be people everywhere. As we last saw them in the season finales, they're surrounded by tons of people. And then at the end, you zoom in very close on their eyes. They close their eyes. And then only Cersei opens hers back up. And then we pull out from the Night's King. So crazy tinfoil going on here. I'm wondering if with the song it's talking about empathy, if the Night's King is looking for allies south of the wall. Dany and Jon are unreceptive. Jon looks pissed when he looks up. Dany looks sorrowful when she looks up, but Cersei looks intrigued. And then she opens her eyes and she breathes out the cold. And then we go right to the Night's King. Maybe they're trying to say that Cersei will be somehow receptive to whatever the Night's King is offering. I mean, she's already on board with Robert Strong. He can offer her an army of the undead. She already really likes an undead soldier. And he offers her power. Crazy tinfoil.
Wow. That is a spicy meatball.
Can I put in a counterpoint to that?
Go right ahead.
Why there are no other people in the throne rooms? It's because it was cheaply produced and they could only get the 3 actors.
It could be.
Okay, I have an in-story thematic idea as to why there are no people
Sure.
in the throne rooms. So,
Okay.
I think it's the last Dany chapter in A Storm of Swords, and she talks about how lonely she is, and talks about how once she's become queen, she feels so far apart from everyone else, and being a ruler is all about that isolation. So
Right.
that's why I think there aren't any people in there to really highlight the idea that as a king, you are far apart, or a queen, you are far apart from your subjects.
Right.
But being me, I took it in a crazy warging direction. That's what I do.
I mean, you got to admit, first off, yeah, like I think that thematic thing is totally there, especially coming together, clashing for this season. But it also is a little suspicious. I admit the closing the eyes and then open it, like
Only Cersei?
And then Cersei's the only one who
She breathes out
see
the
her
cold.
breath. Exactly. Yeah, it's
weird.
It feels like something they would do to mess with us.
Maybe it's just marking her as the villain of this season.
Now that could be.
Like, as they've set up the others as the villains, maybe they're in this way, they're trying to say, well, Night's King and Cersei are similar in that they're going to be the villains, whereas Jon and Dany are going to be the protagonists in this season.
She's kind of already the villain, isn't she? Like, she just murdered like 100 people inside of a religious site, like the holiest site in all the land. So
YOLO.
Yes.
not. You only get to crawl under the Sept of Baelor once.
Yeah, you only Lancel once.
What's that kid doing? I'm Lancel Lannister. I'm going to investigate.
He was the hottest man in the
Why?
Seven Kingdoms more than Quentin.
Whoa!
For like half a second.
And then everyone else was just as hot. Everyone here's so hot.
The High Sparrow.
Steaming.
Marjorie actually stayed about the same level of hotness, I would say.
Ooh, nice.
Ooh, got a crush, Mike?
It's Natalie Dormer.
Yeah. Do you not?
Objectively, every single person in the world has a crush on Natalie Dormer.
Yeah, agreed.
Whoa.
Oh, here's my tinfoil. So we can choose to include it or not. My tinfoil is that, so we're seeing Cersei really coming into being that villain and taking on the throne and those aspirations. In George R. R. Martin's 1993 letter, Jaime was originally supposed to actually have really been a villain and wanted the Iron Throne for himself. Do we think that, well, I don't know if in the books we'll go with this same direction, but that Cersei has eclipsed and taken on the role that Jaime was supposed to have?
Interesting. Yeah. I could see that, because Jaime clearly got developed more than what George R. R. Martin originally envisioned in that 93 letter. And he also, one of the other big changes from the 93 letter is characters like Sansa in particular were much more fleshed out in the actual story than they were in the letter, when a lot of these women characters were either sort of written off or pretty flat. So it'd be interesting if he came up with that, as sort of Cersei takes on this role that he had originally envisioned for Jaime. And that seems like a big note that he would pass on to D&D. Like if we're assuming these last couple seasons are going to hit on big bullet points that George told the producers, then Cersei becoming queen and murdering people seems like a pretty big one.
Here's some additional tinfoil. Was Cersei originally supposed to have Jaime's role then? And they were flipped entirely.
Her and Brienne in the Riverlands?
Huh.
Well, maybe like on an entire redemption arc, because you see her as like this evil queen to like start out. Maybe she was supposed to be humanized through the stuff that we learn about her with Robert and things going on. But George R. R. Martin changed it to be like, well, I ate his children and stuff like that instead.
Right. Yeah. There's one major sitting place that was omitted from this trailer, namely the Sea Stone chair. Or I think in the show it's actually the Salt Throne, which is pretty dumb. But,
I sit on the Salt Throne every day.
as moderators, I think, yeah. But yeah, I mean, they totally left out Euron Greyjoy. So was that a surprise to you, or was that just, yet another step in the complete lack of Euron that we've had in the show so far.
That was kind of my first thought as far as watching the trailer. I thought that it would have been better if Euron had appeared to sit on that throne and like started laughing at the end of the trailer. But the show has this way, it's going from, say, a giant political like sequence with the first 5 seasons or so, and then it's starting to add in the magic stuff with the Night's King. Yeah. But the books have this transition character as far as Euron is concerned, where he's political, but he has magical aspects to him for his political ambitions, which would then lead in later on into whatever the Night's King is doing. But as far as we see in the show, Euron's just kind of like this additional player who's pushing some of these secondary characters like Theon and Asha into doing other stuff.
Yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm.
Funny story, when I first watched this trailer, I actually thought that because it was Daenerys was walking through like a stone hallway and it was a stone chair, I was like, oh wait, is that the sea stone chair? And then I had to rewind and realize, no, that's Dragonstone. But I thought that maybe because she's traveling with Yara and Theon, maybe they like, for some reason, go all the way around Westeros and swing by the Iron Islands first, but that makes no sense.
Just so Dany can sit down.
Sit down
on the chair for briefly, so she could star in her own little trailer that they pitched around Westeros. Like, here, follow Daenerys Targaryen.
She sits down in various chairs.
A lot of people have speculated over the years that Dany would sail east and land on the western shore of Westeros. Like, you guys have all seen this before, posted on the subreddit like many times. Like, Dany's going to circumnavigate the world. Matt is shaking his head.
I've never
seen this. There are posts
I've never
all
heard
over.
about it.
Yeah, like
really
Quill
haven't?
tells her about you have to like.
No, I've heard the stories about the Stark that went west and was never seen again. I've never heard Dany going east though.
Oh no, yeah. This was like this is a like. People have been saying it for years, ever since Quaithe said her thing about, like, to go west, you must go east or whatever. And the idea being that Dany would go east to Asshai and then beyond and circumnavigate back to... And George R. Martin's pretty much shot that one down by this point, I think.
He shot it down many times because he goes, we will never see Asshai except through perhaps memories, which a lot of people speculate is Melisandre. And it also, he says in the blog post where he announced the lands of ice and fire, he says these maps don't show things such as like the Americas, if such a thing even exists. They don't show places like, they show places my characters will never go. And they're saying that, and then he says that the Americas might not exist and we will never find out, and that means that Dany cannot circumnavigate the globe because then we would know if there was an entire continent there, unless she went really far south or really far north.
Well, there's also the logistical concerns if George was to actually write that in the book, because the Earth wasn't circumnavigated until the Renaissance era by Magellan, and he left with 3 ships, went all around the globe, and he never even returned. He died in the Philippines or around there. Yeah, and like 11 people returned on one ship 2 years later. So if Dany was to head east, let's say she has an army, and George has also said that Planetos or Girth, whatever you want to call it, Taros, that it's akin to Vance's big planet, which is much larger than Earth is.
Like 4 times.
So if Dany was to head east with a full fleet of like 10,000 soldiers, how many of them would reach the western coast of Westeros, and how long? And that's telling an entirely different story in itself, like visiting all these other places along the way and meeting other people. And so it would be like several more years before she got back. Like, it's the same thing with the Pink Letter. Like, if it's like Asha writing the Pink Letter or Stannis writing it, Jon is 2 months away from bringing any help at all, even if they're calling for help because of the storms. Like, there's just not a way that Dany gets to the western coast of Westeros at all, if George is going to maintain like the realistic aspect as far as the books in a fantasy setting is concerned.
And like no teleportation. Right.
She finds that underground cavern that Bloodraven has that allows you to go anywhere in the world.
Or all of Dany's armies puts on Littlefinger's jetpacks and just go.
I do believe in the underground system of caverns that all connect to one another. That is a tinfoil that I do believe in.
Definitely. Like Winterfell is connected to Bloodraven's cave and all that. Yeah.
In 500 years, it'll be like an underground subway system. It's already dug for them.
Are you saying there were subways, that this is a post-apocalyptic future? Maybe from a different book series?
Maybe.
Like wild cards?
There are a whole bunch of...
Did we want to talk about any of the other characters that most people assume would be in the trailer but weren't, like Tyrion or... Actually, hang on, let me look at my list. Tyrion, Arya, Sansa, that they're just absent from it.
They are conspicuously absent.
Well, Tyrion isn't actually sitting anything, and all these other people are sitting on the throne. Like, would Tyrion just show up standing beside Daenerys if they're going to include him? What would he do in the context of the trailer?
Waddle behind her.
Drink and know things?
Yeah.
Well, I just find it interesting that they've chosen... Jon and Dany are obvious, but Cersei's the third character, along with the Night's King, that they've chosen to highlight. Whereas I think if you look at popularity of characters, you'd probably say that Arya and Tyrion would probably be pretty high up there, which means they're not basing who's in this trailer on popularity. They're looking at what's important for this season's story, which is interesting.
Well, then you'd have to put Euron in there, wouldn't you?
Nah, he's gonna die in the first episode. Mark my words.
He's gonna pull a Doran.
Within moments of the trailer being posted on the subreddit, there was someone asking if do you guys see like the shapes in the eye, and they had like, you know, red circles and arrows and stuff like that pointing to things. So did you guys take a look at the Night's King's eye and see if there's any hidden messages or images or like drink your Ovaltine or whatever buried in there somewhere?
User Faceless Greenseer posted that on the subreddit, and he looked at like the after images of where the Night's King, you can see a couple of maybe the wall in like his eye as it pulls out. Mm-hmm. And I went through looking through the eye as far as for like little hidden messages, like if they wanted to have something super viral in there. And there was a chance that there was some stuff, and I'll put this in like the YouTube video so you guys can look at it, where they may have superimposed some sort of image as you're pulling out immediately from the eye, but it's probably just general CGI nonsense.
Sure.
There is also some CGI in the trailer, like when Cersei takes her breath.
Yeah.
That's all CGI. That's not actually real, because if she was actually taking a breath in a cold environment at that angle, you would expect it to come directly out at the camera, but it doesn't. It goes off to like the right side of her face in a very lovely photogenic manner, so it doesn't obscure anything, but that's not really realistic as far as it's concerned. So you can tell that's CGI, and also they probably wouldn't put her in a cold environment like that.
Yeah.
Although I heard the Titanic set at Belfast can get pretty cold.
Yeah.
They filmed that in.
I'm sure.
Speaking of breaths, they also, I think, CGI'd those breaths inside the Titanic movie. I don't think those are actually real. Like, they didn't film it in the cold, and they just, like, added those later. So there we go. Maybe that's where they got the idea to do it. Heck if I know.
Wow. I think you're onto something.
There's definitely a reflection of something.
Oh, in the eye? Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's the wall in the eye, but if you're...
Yeah,
probably.
but I don't know what.
Don't dig too far into it, because would they really put something that cryptic in there?
I dug deeper. I went and looked at the other characters' eyes when we were zooming in. I looked at Jon's, I looked at Cersei's, I looked at Dany's. There's nothing there. There's just a light source up in the corner for each of them.
Nothing there.
There's
nothing behind their eyes.
I zoomed in so far.
They're just wax figures.
The reason you aren't seeing anything like reflected in anyone's eyes is like, as Aaron was saying earlier, that, you know, this was just easy to film. These aren't clips from scenes. That's why it's just the light source. These are this was filmed purely for this trailer.
Yeah, they probably had all the actors come in early one day and just film this over like a period of a couple of hours.
Right.
Some of this stuff takes a lot longer to film than you might imagine, and there's probably a lot of clips on the cutting room floor, like they'd have to move the cameras, especially if they're on cranes, and get all these shots. So, I mean, it's not super cheap to film something like this, but it's also not something that they would really break the budget for.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Sure.
But I also kind of like the way that they do these trailers because they don't give too much away in them. Whereas,
Yeah.
like, if they're showing a couple of trailers from, like, last year, you could almost piece together an entire season from looking at it.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
true. From the Breaking the Wheel teaser, you knew the whole season.
Yeah, and they did, like, 3 trailers for season 4 or something, and it was, like, so much footage to look for in there.
I wonder how much we're gonna like if they're gonna keep up this kind of theme with really cryptic, simple trailers for season 7. Because I mean, obviously everyone's hyped for it already.
This
You don't
isn't
need
that
to give away the
cryptic.
plot.
I
mean,
feel
not cryptic per se, just like
Not informative.
Yeah, right.
It feels like they're really just coming back in this trailer to, the title of the show and the first
that's a
book,
really good point.
which is, it's a Game of Thrones, which I guess
Heck
down,
yes.
music, is it musical chairs for A Song of Ice and Fire?
Whoa.
She cracked it.
Oh my
It did
gosh. Now this is the kind of high quality discourse you only get at the Quill and Tankard.
This does kind of remind me of the trailers for Force Awakens, where their first trailers were really general. They only had a few clips. They were some of them. I don't think some of them made it into the movies. And then as they went on, they started giving you more and more and more. So if they're following that kind of marketing scheme, this will be the first one. Next one will show more, and the third one would be probably the mass market one, where they're trying to get casual people in on it by showing them, the eye candy from the season.
Normies. Yeah.
Yeah, and they'd want to do that way closer to release. Like back in previous years, the shows come out in like late March, early April, and they would release the trailers in about mid-January is when you start seeing them. And last year we didn't get a trailer until, I want to say, like mid-March.
It was late. It was like mid-March for sure.
Yeah, and the show came out then in like April 24th or something of last year. So I wouldn't expect a full trailer until
June.
June, I guess now.
Yeah.
That seems so late.
Well,
I'm trying to think if there's any big, like is there a show ending or premiering or something in June where they're gonna slap a trailer on? Because I feel like that's something they would do, right? Tack it on to another show.
I wonder how many more episodes there are in Legion. Maybe they'll do that. That probably has a high crossover.
Insecure. They might put it together with Insecure, which I think is airing at around that time. I really like that show.
Well, you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
Maybe George will pull some strings and put it on the Expanse season finale.
Ooh.
That'd be good.
On Sci-Fi.
Okay, you know why?
It's a good show.
No, I know.
It's a great show. You know why they're releasing Winter is Coming? Winter's Coming in July? Because it's like Christmas in July.
In July.
That's what I have. Christmas in July.
Quill and Tankard at its finest.
The discourse only gets better. All right,
I've always kind of wished the show would have aired like in the winter time because it's winter. That would have been a much better marketing point for them.
Do you think there's a chance season 8 will in fact come out in like winter of 2018?
Well, if they're doing 6 episodes next season and they postpone it, some of the stuff that they've postponed is for shooting in Iceland which is more expensive and it's a lot colder and they have fewer hours of daylight, which is a big issue. Because even if you're shooting night scenes with modern cameras, you don't actually shoot them during the night. You then take the day footage and then you superimpose darkness over it and make it look all deep and blue and put a blue filter on there. And so they need to have that daylight. And I don't know if they're only doing 6 episodes next season. Could they push it back even farther? Would it take that much production? Would they do even more CGI?
That's what I'm wondering. Yeah,
the budget's going to be huge for whatever they want to do.
I think what was it? They have like a similar budget to season 7 for season 8, but since it's fewer episodes, it's obviously
all the dragons
more per episode. I feel like there's a chance if they push it back, if they're doing lots of production stuff, we could actually see like season 8 in the winter of 2018. And then in the spring of 2019, The Winds of Winter will come out.
Spring.
Oh,
Oh.
yes, finally. No.
So brilliant.
Ooh, I like this thing that user Mockward said, which is about how, looks like they replaced the Star of the Seven in the windows. I know that they replaced something, but so they replaced the Star of the Seven in the windows at the Red Keep with Lannister lions.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I did not notice that.
Really? I noticed that detail.
Makes me wonder if it's my tinfoil and it's in Cersei's head.
I mean, they do have in the song that whole, touched by madness part when she appears.
So we're going to start season 7 and there'll be, Cersei in the throne room and all that, but then it'll cut and she's still in the High Sparrow's cells and her trial hasn't happened yet.
And the entire story is a dream
Of spring.
Wow, that's amazing. Mind-blowing.
Really, that was a great comment, Eliana.
She's now frozen and staring at the
frozen.
ceiling.
Yeah. What? Wait, there's something in her eyes. It kind of looks like,
Is it the wall?
I think it's the wall. oh, hey, Eliana.
Knight's Queen? Glass table girl?
Hey. I don't know. I saw someone ask in the thread, user DBG, spelled DBJEEE, says, wait, are there icy thorns coming out of Cersei's throat and neck through her clothes? There's something spiky looking at the beginning of the shot already. I think it's more of just her costume, because even before then, but it is interesting to think that, her costume might be more icy, and maybe that plays into the tinfoil that you were saying. And then other people were talking about how Daenerys is finally donning the house colors of black and red. And Jon is just going around looking like Jon, #just Jon things.
It's true. He's still got his same, fur coat on that he's had.
He's wearing leather. He's dressed for battle in that.
Is he?
Yeah.
Well, he's wearing leather.
Oh my god. Okay. Sorry, this isn't costume.
Okay.
Some other people pointed out, two users at the very least have pointed out, many users have pointed out the idea. Sorry, I'm gonna start all over again. First user that points.
No, it's fine. We're gonna leave it in.
God.
This is great. Just keep going. Quill and Tankard.
Sorry,
you
I
don't
was
have to worry
scrolling
about
up.
Quill,
I was
Tankard,
scrolling
Quill.
up
Don't
through the
blare us.
thread, so I saw the latest ones first and not the first one. Okay, so user Wes VC says Macumber theory still stands. Remember the Macumber theory?
Oh, yes.
Of that it's all in the blue-eyed giant's eyeball.
Oberyn says it mockingly, and then Rob says it seriously to Bran, I think. It's this weird creation myth that all of Planetos is just the eyeball of a giant. And
Yes. A blue-eyed giant.
a blue-eyed giant.
Named Macumber.
So your Rob impression right there.
Yeah, that was my Richard Madden impression.
You did a great job. You're hired.
Some say we live in the eye of a blue-eyed giant named Macumber. It got progressively worse.
That was Scottish.
Isn't he? Richard Madden is Scottish, I think. So I've got that going for me. Just wait till you hear my Jorah Mormont.
So do we want to finish the costume thing?
Yeah, so Dany's wearing Targaryen colors now, but they're very dark in the trailer. And it's the general tone as far as Game of Thrones has gone on as it's been created. You go back to the early seasons and it's very bright. There's a lot of outdoor lighting and a lot of more pastels. And people attribute it getting darker towards, the story is getting darker, so now they're going to start filming it darker. It's like poetry, it's coming back, it's rhyming. But it's more so in this case, I think, because they're just going with a different style and it's more cinematic. And it's also, if they're going to do CGI things, it's always cheaper to do it in a dark environment because then you can fake a lot of the CGI as far as how good it has to be in that deep blackness. Or even if you look at the Battle of the Bastards last season, there's a lot of smoke being kicked up that like represents snow. That's more to occlude the fact that there isn't great CGI rendering going on behind in those scenes than anything else.
It is kind of too bad because I think a lot of the awesome costuming gets swallowed up by that need for sort of darker sets and obfuscations. Because, when they do all those, like, costume featurettes and things like that, and they really zoom in on the details, it's so intricate. It's awesome. And I get the feeling that Danny's dress would look really cool if we were seeing it in, like, very, very bright light that really got the red out.
It would contrast really well with the obsidian of Dragonstone.
Yeah, and it's one thing if the show eventually hits the long night, if it was to go from like a bright environment to immediately darker, that would be a much stronger contrast than going from, say, like how dark it is right now and then just going to a little bit lighter dark of a shade. But if you also look at the costumes historically in the medieval period, the costumes that people had, well, not costumes, the dress that the nobles wore was always going to be very bright and vivid because that showed off that they were able to afford those dyes, and it was the peasants who had more like the dark and the drab colors. And if you look in the trailer, it's kind of like everybody looks like they're in the Lord of the Matrix Reloaded as far as how dark and dim, just drop some sunglasses on people. But if you look at, say, what's the most famous like costume that somebody has, like that they associate with a character, what comes to mind for you guys?
Superman.
Well, I mean in Game of Thrones.
We can say that.
Superman ain't in Game of Thrones.
Probably Melisandre. Her costume is very, very distinctive.
That's a great answer.
Really? You guys don't think bright blue, open back?
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. Bright blue Daenerys. Because like they even when they parried her later in the thing in Volantis, you saw like that prostitute that was wearing a blue dress and stuff, and then everybody was like, "Oh, she's meant to be Daenerys because it looks like what she wore." And Melisandre's dress is bright red and visual. Yeah. But when you get into like the darker clothes, like nobody really remembers them that much.
No.
I guess.
Well, I think it makes sense for Jon and Dany to wear those colors because if Jon is now becoming king in the north and taking on the Stark colors, then he'd be wearing black and gray, and Dany would be wearing the house colors of House Targaryen, which is that red and black. But what I don't get is it also feels a little out of character for Cersei to be wearing these dark colors, unless she's still technically in mourning, which would make sense. But I guess she has to pretend she's mourning all those people she killed.
It was a terrible accident. I had nothing to do with it. Look, I'm wearing black.
Poisoned by Roose Bolton's enemies.
Cersei's the kind of person who would flaunt that wealth. She would be like, she's always like, I'm a lion. I'm going to wear the gold and crimson of House Lannister.
Hear me roar, and I'm not roaring.
Sounds like a quiet lion.
Which is interesting about Dany's costume is that the Targaryens are not usually known for the black. It's mostly the red. When you look through history and what they looked like, especially if you look at Dunk and Egg, where we meet a lot of them, and what Rhaegar and King Aerys wore, it was always crimson. That's the color of the dragon. But
that's a good point.
They've chosen to give her more black than crimson.
Rhaegar's armor, which is...
Right, Rhaegar was out of character.
Well, yes, but it's such... Of all the other Targaryens' outfits, I would say that Rhaegar's outfit is the most iconic in that everyone remembers Rhaegar clad in his black armor with crimson rubies. The crimson is like an accent that stands out even more when you think about it in contrast to the black. Mm-hmm. But it is like a Daenerys outfit, which is more black.
It's like a black base with red.
I agree with that. She's echoing Rhaegar more than she is the other Targaryens, which is interesting.
I just had some super random tinfoil.
Okay.
I wonder if Rhaegar wasn't wearing that because it's historically written that in some song that he was supposed to fight a battle there and dressed in this special armor to protect him, but he got the colors backwards. It's supposed to be red armor with dragon glass embedded into it to protect him.
Mind blown.
There you go.
I just got chills up and down my legs.
Oh, more tinfoil for you guys. Enjoy that.
Wow, that's actually pretty compelling, not gonna lie.
Quill and Tankard.
Got it wrong.
He's got the wrong rubies. He flipped them backwards.
And it makes him a target so that if he's wearing it to go up against the others, they all run up to him and try to touch him, and then they touch the obsidian and then blow up.
That's the sound of the others. I'm gonna touch you.
I'm gonna touch you.
But they see the red. They're like, I'm going there.
Yeah. Here I come.
Yep, that's they don't
Are
want
they
to draw
like bulls?
anger at them.
Bullfighting.
Yes.
Rhaegar's trying to be unassuming with his black armor. Unfortunately, he's the crown prince and he has a dragon on his helm.
Well, I think that about wraps it up for what we can say about a 1.5 minute long trailer featuring 3 actors walking and sitting.
3.1.
4.
4 actors if you count the Night's King, I guess.
Turns out it might not be the
I wonder
Night
if they'll
King.
retain
Who
the
knows?
same
it
actor.
Might be a
3.5.
random white
Maybe
walker.
it's
I just realized that. Whatever.
Cersei in the future.
It could be
Stop tinfoiling. We're
Macumber.
getting out of here.
Cersei is Macumber.
future Cersei.
My God.
We are
If you
all
rearrange
Macumber.
all the letters in Macumber,
So thank you for listening to this very
and you
special.
change the M.
God damn it.
Try again.
Thank you for tuning in for this special Maester Monthly installment of a nice evening at the Quill and Tankard with your friendly Maesters. I have been Bookshelfstud, aka Michael.
I have been Eliana, aka Glass Table Girl.
I've been JoeMagician, a.k.a. Matt.
I've been AdmiralKird, a.k.a. Aaron. And we're signing out.
Yes, we are.
Hope you all have a good evening. Have a nice drive home.
Don't drink and drive.
Stay safe out there.